The first time Alina saw him, the city was humming like a restless heart. Buenos Aires didn't sleep, it pulsed. Music spilled from half-open bars, taxis sliced through golden streetlight, and the air carried the scent of grilled meat and late-night stories. For Alina, it was supposed to be just another chapter, another stamp in her passport, another attempt to outrun the version of herself the world thought it knew. Reality TV had a way of freezing people in time. To millions, she was still that girl, the complicated one, the controversial one, the one whose love story didn't quite land the way fairy tales are supposed to. But here, in Argentina, no one cared about edits, headlines, or comment sections. Here, she was just Alina. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like freedom. She had arrived with no real plan. A small apartment in San Telmo, a suitcase that held more confidence than clothes, and a quiet promise to herself: no expectations, no chasing love, just living. That promise lasted exactly 12 days. It was a Thursday night when everything shifted. Alina had wandered into a narrow street she couldn't pronounce, following the echo of a guitar. It led her to a tiny, dimly lit plaza where strangers sat on mismatched chairs, clapping in rhythm as a man played something raw and beautiful. And there he was. Not performing, not trying to impress. Just sitting on the edge of a fountain, sketching in a worn notebook like the world around him didn't exist. Alina noticed him because he wasn't looking at anyone. Everyone else was watching the music. He was watching the moments between. She told herself not to approach him. She failed. Is it always like this? She asked, gesturing to the music, the laughter, the easy magic of the night. He looked up slowly, like her voice had interrupted a dream. Only if you're paying attention, he said. His accent was soft, his English imperfect but warm. His eyes held that rare kind of calm, the kind that made you feel like time wasn't chasing you. Are you? She asked. Trying to. He smiled. That was it. No dramatic spark, no cinematic slow motion. Just two people choosing, in that moment, to be curious about each other. His name was Mateo. He didn't ask what she did, didn't recognize her, didn't Google her later. To him, she was just a woman with sharp eyes and a laugh that seemed slightly guarded, like it had been misunderstood too many times. To her, he was uncomplicated. And that alone made him dangerous. They started with small things. Coffee that turned into hours of conversation, walks that had no destination, silences that didn't need filling. Mateo showed her Buenos Aires the way locals rarely show tourists. Not the postcard version. The real one. They ate at places with no menus, danced in kitchens instead of clubs, got lost on purpose. He drew constantly, on napkins, receipts, scraps of paper, sometimes her, sometimes strangers, sometimes things she didn't understand. Why do you draw everything? She asked one afternoon. So I don't forget how it feels, he said. Feels? Moments disappear. Drawing is how I argue with time. Alina didn't tell him about the show at first. It wasn't fear. It was relief. With Mateo, there was no past version of her to explain, no reputation to defend, no narrative to correct. She wasn't Alina from TV. She was just Alina who liked late-night empanadas and terrible Spanish jokes. And she liked that version better. But the past has a way of finding you. Even in a city that feels like a fresh start. It happened in the most ordinary way. A girl at a cafe recognized her. At first, it was just a double take, then a whisper, then a phone discreetly lifted. Mateo noticed. You know her? He asked casually. Alina hesitated. And in that pause, something shifted. Kind of, she said carefully. He didn't push. But later that night, as they sat on the steps of her apartment building, she told him everything. The show, the attention, the love that wasn't really love, the way people formed opinions about her life from edited moments. She expected questions. Judgment. Distance. Instead, Mateo just listened. Really listened. When she finished, the silence felt heavier than anything she had said. Are you still that person? He asked finally. She blinked. What do you mean? The one they think they know. Alina looked away. I don't even know who that is anymore. Mateo nodded. Like that answer made perfect sense. Good, he said. Good? Yes, means you're still changing. It wasn't a grand declaration. But it landed deeper than any compliment she had heard in years. Their relationship didn't follow rules. There were no labels at first, no "where is this going" conversations. Just a quiet, steady growing. Like roots beneath the surface. But love, real love, doesn't stay simple forever. Especially when two worlds start to collide. Alina's phone began buzzing more often. Opportunities, interviews, invitations. People wanted updates. They wanted to know if she had found love again. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had. But this time, it didn't feel like something she wanted to share. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Matteo noticed the shift. "You're somewhere else lately," he said one evening. They were sitting by the river, watching the city reflect in the water like a painting that never stayed still. "I might have to go back," she admitted. "For how long?" "I don't know." He nodded slowly. "Okay." That was it. No protest, no guilt, no dramatic reaction. And somehow, that made it harder. "Don't you care?" she asked, a hint of frustration slipping through. Matteo looked at her, genuinely confused. "Of course I care. Then why are you so calm?" He thought for a moment. "Because caring about you doesn't mean controlling what you do." That was new. Unfamiliar. And a little terrifying. As the days passed, the question hung between them. What happens when real life interrupts something that feels like a dream? Alina had spent so much of her life trying to prove something. To audiences, to partners, to herself. But with Matteo, there was nothing to prove. And maybe that was the scariest part. Because if it didn't work, she wouldn't be able to blame misunderstandings, editing, or distance. It would just be real. On her last night in Buenos Aires, at least for now, they returned to the plaza where they first met. The music was different. The crowd was different. But the feeling was the same. Alive. Unpredictable. Full of possibility. Matteo handed her something. A small sketchbook. Inside were dozens of drawings. Her laughing, her thinking, her walking through the city like she belonged to it. "You were drawing me this whole time?" she asked, stunned. "I told you," he smiled, "I don't like forgetting." She turned the pages slowly. Each one felt like a version of herself she hadn't seen before. Unfiltered. Unlabeled. Free.